All right, are we good with the cameras? All the media is good? Okay. Thank you all for joining us here today. I am Charlie Cradaville, the Central Jersey organizer with Food and Water Watch, and on behalf of the Empower New Jersey Coalition, thank you all for joining us. Today, we are gathered on the steps of Plainfield City Hall because of the tragic, devastating, unnatural disasters that befell Central Jersey this month. And in this moment, we need to unite and advocate for a livable future. That's why we're joined today by so many advocates and officials who know this and are ready to fight for change. We have a large number of speakers, so I'm going to be brief, and we'll keep it moving as we move through community leaders, elected leaders, and we will take your questions in the press when we conclude. So our first leader is Reverend Eric Dobson from United Black Agenda. I ask you all to give him a warm welcome, and he's going to say a few words to set the tone. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for the great advocacy that's going on around New Jersey on this issue. Thank you to Mayor Mapp and his beautiful, great city. I think it's only befitting that because of the tragedy that happened here a few days ago, we can take a moment of silence to remember the lives that were lost. Thank you. May their memories bring a blessing to all of us and to their families. As the Executive Director of United Black Agenda, I want to speak clearly about the devastating floods that happened here in Plainfield and across New Jersey. These are not just natural disasters, these are political outcomes, direct results of systems that protect corporate profits over people. The delayed urgent action when communities had to pay a price. Not long ago, one of the great singers of our day, Marvin Gaye, saw this coming decades ago when he sung Mercy, Mercy Me. He sang, oil wasted on our ocean and our seas, fish full of mercury, radiation upon the ground and the sky. In his song, Save the Children, he asked the question, who really cares? Who really cares? Who is willing to save a world who's destined to die? And we're here today. A generation later, still asking the same question, because when we fail to pass legislation like Climate Superfund Act, a common sense law that simply says polluters should pay for their cleanup when they mess. We're answering Marvin's question with inaction. And the truth is this isn't about floods, it's about justice. When profits are delayed, who benefits when fossil fuel companies make billions? Where our streets flood, infrastructure crumbles, and the working class communities, especially black and brown communities, are left vulnerable. And who suffers when federal funds are slashed, when climate science is dismissed, and when disaster response is politicized or denied? We must stop treating these events as isolated tragedies. They are structural failures. The cost is measured in lost lives. Dr. King once warned us, we are confronted with the fierce urgency of now. The moment is here. The house is on fire. And if we truly care about justice and about our children and about the earth, that we must take action. We must stand up and fight for justice and not let this system be politicized. So the question is, do we really care? Do we really care? Yes. Do we really care? Yes. Well, let's act and make sure we put an end to this climate nonsense. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Keep it going for the Reverend. Thank you so much. We wanted to hand it over to another faith leader, Reverend George Gore. He's also the first vice president of the Plainfield NAACP branch and Director of Civil Liberties for the New Jersey State Elks Association. Please put your hands together for Reverend George Gore.
Good afternoon. I live in Plainfield. My business, which is OCM, our Community Matters, is in Plainfield. We have a building on Park Avenue. I couldn't get out of my building until 4 o'clock in the morning. Not a problem with the city doing the wrong thing. The problem is that the infrastructure isn't there. Corps of Engineers, nobody probably remembers this before Mayor Mapp got here. The Corps of Engineers was dredging Greenbrook, moving all the way down to Boundbrook. They never completed the job. Part of that problem now creates the flood that you now see happening in our city. My building got wiped out. Elevators killed, bottom floors killed. And who was responsible for getting it done? The building. Because there are no processes in place to help fix that and to make sure it doesn't happen again. We need to work together to make sure that we get the right kind of legislation that doesn't need 35 pieces of paper to get it through, doesn't need 35 pieces of paper for you to be able to take advantage of the things that it's going to provide, that we have a process in place that will help the people of the city of Plainfield. This is my home. I live here. I moved here in '85. Very happy with being here. But one of the things that I've noticed over all the time that I've been here is that infrastructure has not been fixed. And it ain't just a Plainfield thing. Got to look at where our sewer system is connected. We're connected to Scotch Plains. We're connected to Fanwood. We're connected to North Plainfield. We're connected all up and down there. It means the water, when it comes in here, goes someplace else, and the problem is it gets backed up here. We need this new legislation. We need to make sure there's funds available for nonprofits like my business. We'll be able to take advantage of that and move forward. But citizens of Plainfield need to step up, talk to their legislators, talk to the people who are responsible for getting these funds put in this place, reminding them that they're up for elections at one time or the other. And if they don't do the things that help fix the infrastructure of the city in which we live in, then we got a problem. We're going to work with them. I'm part of NJBIC, Jersey Black Institute Association. United, my friend over there who just talked, we're members of that organization. We work with other people across the state because Plainfield isn't the only one that's got this problem. We need legislation that is going to help the cities that have the low to middle income people and people that have the low income people. Because they can't fix themselves because they don't have the necessities that they need to have in order to get where we need to go. This has got to be a united effort. It can't be a one man, one person. It's got to be a united effort. The community's got to step up and help itself. Because nobody's going to help you if you're not helping yourself. This is about all of us getting together and looking at what needs to happen, fix it, and by the way, not burden everybody with 45 pieces of paper just to find out you're not going to get no money. Okay? That's what we need to do. That's what this is all about. Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend. And indeed, we are all connected and standing here in unity today. And I want to give a very special thank you to the mayor of the Queen City, Mayor Adrian Mapp, who has been so supportive of us having this event today. And I wanted to hand it over to him to say a few words about his city and the climate.
Well, first, let me begin by welcoming all of you to our Black Lives Matter Plaza, as well as to Plainfield City Hall. And I welcome all of the elected officials, all the community leaders, and all of the organizations that are here today with us on this very important issue. And so it was good when Reverend Gore mentioned the Army Corps of Engineers, because I came to the city in 1979 and I was told that there was a flood in 1974, I believe, 50 years ago, and one person died on Park Avenue. And so the Army Corps of Engineers grew out of that, the Greenbrook Flood Control Commission, of which I once was a member, grew out of that tragedy. And here we are 50 years later, and we're receiving drips and drabs of funding from the federal government in order for that project to move forward. It started on the western side of Somerset County, Denellen, Greenbrook, and it has been working its way up to Plainfield for many, many years. And so that project needs funding, and that is why it is important for legislation like this. And so last week, a deadly flash flood here in Plainfield and the devastating floods across New Jersey this summer have shaken our community to the core. These are not isolated incidents. They are a warning sign of a planet in crisis.
That's right.
Yes. One that is heating up faster than ever because of decades of burning coal, oil, and gas.
That's right.
What used to be rare events are now becoming regular destructive realities. We can no longer act surprised when climate change turns storms into disasters. We know the science. With 2 degrees Celsius of warming, which we could hit within 20 years, our heaviest storms will bring 17% more rainfall. And as extreme rainfall events increase, so do the risks to our homes, our infrastructure, and our lives. Meanwhile, the federal government has cut funding for the very programs designed to keep us safe. Here in Plainfield, we lost $5.6 million in flood reduction projects due to the federal budget cuts. That's $5.6 million. Programs like FEMA and NOAA, lifelines for disaster prediction and relief, are being gutted, leaving local governments like ours to pick up the pieces with very limited resources.
James.
But let's be clear about who is truly responsible. The fossil fuel industry has known for decades that their products cause climate change.
That's right.
That's no secret. They have known this all along. They chose to lie. They chose to lobby. They made trillions in profits while communities like ours paid the price in lies, property damage, and rising costs. This cannot continue. That's why I stand here today calling on all of us to support the New Jersey Climate Superfund Act. This critical piece of legislation will ensure that corporate polluters, not taxpayers, pay the damage they have caused. It will fund the rebuilding of our infrastructure, support disaster relief, and protect our communities from the storms ahead.
Yes.
And there's no question about it, there will be storms.
Yes.
We just don't know where, we don't know the extent, but we know there will be storm. And judging from what has been happening, these events are getting worse each time they occur.
That's right.
The time for half measures is over. We must demand accountability and build resilience. I urge every resident, every elected official, and every business leader to stand with us in this fight. This is a crisis, and we don't have the luxury of time to wait to address a crisis. When a crisis develops, it requires an immediate and urgent response. And that is where we are. Urgency is what is needed. It's time to make polluters pay. protect our future, and ensure that Plainfield and New Jersey rise stronger than ever. Now is the time for responsible action. And therefore, I call on all of you, all of us, I call on our state legislature to do the right thing in order that we will have the protections necessary to shore up our communities and the funding necessary to rebuild our infrastructure, thereby making our communities safer. So now is the time to act, and I call on the New Jersey State Legislature to do precisely that. Act and put this law into, put this legislation into law. Thank you and God bless.
Keep it going for Mayor Mapp, everybody. Thank you so much, Mayor. We have a treat here. We have several members of the New Jersey State Senate, including the prime sponsor of the New Jersey Climate Superfund Act. I want everybody to give a really warm welcome today to Senator John McKeon. Senator McKeon, come up here and say a few words.
God, thank you very much. Boy, that's a tough act to follow. That's for certain. Look, first off, is Mayor Mapp close by? Mayor, thank you for being such a great leader. I'm sorry, as we all are, to the families of the two persons who lost their lives, and particularly just grateful for public officials like Mayor Mapp, who really stepped up and did an amazing job. That's what leadership is, and you're an example to all of us. Let's hear it to the mayor, for the mayor. I just rode up and I see that Senator Smith is here, as well as Senator Raj. And Senator Smith, I know, like myself, enjoys, and Raj, being down at the Jersey Shore. And we happen to know through the science, climatological science, is that New Jersey and our coast is heating up more than any other state in the Union. And in part, of course, that's because we have 136 miles of ocean front and because the oceans are warming. And inevitably, what that's going to do is put that beautiful barrier island underwater. Literally billions of dollars of real estate, let alone hundreds of thousands of lives, to be disrupted. What they said in Washington, Donald Trump, to quote, don't worry, there'll be more beachfront property. Real funny, real funny. But it goes beyond the beachfronts, right? It goes to a beautiful community, like here in Plainfield. It goes to Milburn, to Springfield, like so many of the other communities here in New Jersey, as it relates to this craziness that we knew was coming, and we didn't have the fortitude to do what was right. Well, guess what? Climate change is here. I'm not all that smart. A lot of people here are a lot smarter than I am, but Gulf of Mexico is heated up, and that sends more moisture in the air, and it comes down in biblical torrents, like we've seen all over the country. As half our country, and think of those poor folks in Houston right now, literally, in areas that it's uninhabitable for humans. It's here. So, I know that there was an emergency meeting, Mayor, and you're coming up with $5 million to deal with that big windstorm a few weeks back, and of course with the floods. So here's the question. Should the people of this great city have to pay for it?
No.
No.
Should big oil have to pay for it?
Yes.
That's simply what this bill is about. Joining here with my colleagues to indicate a very simple question. It's either the taxpayers or big oil that's making billions and billions of dollars. So to the 40 or 50 communities now that have sent us resolutions to their state senators and their assembly representatives, to all of you for continuing to fight. We will, right? Yes. My colleagues, we will, by January of this year, as the final legacy of Phil Murphy's wonderful environmental record, we will pass the Climate Resiliency Act. Christmas, that's right, Christmas for all of us. Thank you for letting me say a few words. God bless you all.
Thank you, Senator. Thank you so much. So there are now 45 different municipalities that have passed resolutions in support of this Climate Superfund Act. It's extremely popular, and I wanted to call up a couple of folks who helped get this done in a nearby community, Garwood. We have Councilman Chase Paduzniak, who championed the legislation, and Garwood's Mayor, Jen Blumenstock. Come on up.
Thank you. And I just want to say thank you to Mayor Matt for having us here, and our condolences to the lives lost and condolences to their families. Last week was just one in a series of events in the past couple of years that has, I think, opened everybody's eyes to what's really needed to tackle this problem. But what's needed? Money.
Yep.
We need the money. Small towns like Garwood, large towns like Plainfield, it shouldn't, as the senator said, land on the taxpayers to provide that infrastructure funding. We need to hold the fossil fuel companies accountable. And that's what municipalities like Garwood will continue to do. I want to thank you all for putting this together so that we can all work together to make that happen. I'm going to turn it over to Councilman Paduzniak. When he brought this to my attention, it was an immediate yes. This is what we need to get behind. He's a new councilman, but he's been living in Garwood his whole life and has seen what these floods and the newer weather that we're seeing is doing to our residents, to their properties, to the overall impact in our town financially. And he immediately said, this is what we need to do, work together with all of you here to make this happen. So I'm going to turn it over to
Thank you, Mayor. And thank you all for being here. Can I get a round of applause just for everybody showing up? This is what we have to do. We got to be here. Not 2 weeks ago, I watched my town, Garwood, its underpass flood yet again. At this point, we expected. Here in Plainfield, the damage was even worse. Here too, I fear we've come to expect these tragedies. It just happens, right? It doesn't just happen. We know it doesn't just happen. Property damaged, people hurt, lives lost. For what? We've known for decades now why temperatures are rising, why hurricanes intensify, why droughts and wildfires claim our natural beauty. We've known for decades that there can be no solution without working together, without solidarity. As individuals, as municipal councils, even as counties, we lack the funds to properly repair what has been damaged and to remediate against future disasters. We can't do it, not alone. Man-made climate change is not going away. Under the current administration, fewer and fewer funds are being made available to deal with it. We've heard about that today. It's not getting easier. And let's be frank, those who stand to benefit from further environmental degradation enjoy power and influence compared to us here today. But we're speaking up. And that's why the Climate Superfund Act has to pass. Yes. No question about it.
Yes.
Thank you. That is why the legislature must pass it without delay. It's going to make those funds available. Those monies that we need to repair broken dreams and to fend off future tragedies. How many more basements need to be flooded, cars washed away, and lives lost? I say none. None have to be. Not if we work together. Today, we make a statement. Thank you to everyone who has come out. I've said it once, I'm going to say it again. It starts here. Thank you to the organizers, to the brave people standing up for what is theirs, the families, the low and middle income people, all of us who are affected in these communities. We're standing up for a better tomorrow. In coming together and showing this solidarity, we take the first necessary step toward a safer, happier tomorrow and toward the future that we want and that'll make us happier. So the passage of the NJ Climate Superfund Act is the next step, and it's a crucial one. It starts here, but it keeps going. Polluters must be held responsible.
Make polluters pay.
Make polluters pay.
Make polluters pay.
Make polluters pay. Make polluters pay. Make polluters pay. Make polluters pay. All right, we're going to do it. Because the people of New Jersey, too long disenfranchised, we deserve it. We deserve it because we didn't make this mess. And we're expected to clean it up? That doesn't make any sense. We deserve it not only for ourselves, but for our children, our children's children, and all the generations you want to see grow up here in Plainfield, in Garwood, and across the great state of New Jersey. We deserve it for all those who want to live without fear, who want to breathe clean air, and who want to inhabit a better, happier future. Thank you all very much.
Well said. And thank you to all the municipalities that have taken that step of passing a resolution calling on our legislature to pass the Climate Superfund Act. And speaking of legislators, our next speaker is the senator for the 17th Legislative District. Please give a warm welcome to Senator Bob Smith.
Good afternoon, everybody. Bob Smith here. I used to represent Plainfield 20 years ago, but Plainfield was part of my legislative district, so I actually know where the streets are and City Hall and the church, all the good things and all the good people of Plainfield. I've known them over the years, and I literally cry for the devastation that occurred to your city, Mayor, and I'm hoping we in the state Senate, Assembly, Governor, we can try to be helpful and get all New Jerseyans past this crisis. And by the way, if you don't think it's a crisis, where have you been? Where have you been? 3 years ago, we had half the country burning down, from California all the way into Idaho. 2 years ago, if you remember, you couldn't breathe. Couldn't breathe because Canada was burning down. And that terrible air pollution was coming to New Jersey. And of course, everybody in New Jersey had any kind of a breathing problem, they were in huge trouble. This year, 15,000 acres burned down in the pine woods. All right, this is getting more frequent, more intense, and we're losing more people. We lost 2 people in Plainfield, and I think 1 person from North Plainfield this time around. 3 years ago, we lost 29 people in another one of these hurricanes. 9 inches of water just came down out of the blue. So we are at risk. This is not a casual, green, let's have a cocktail or a cup of tea. This is your life. This is the lives of your children and your grandchildren. And as so many speakers have said, we're not doing enough in New Jersey. This would be a major good thing. And it does. We have had a principle in New Jersey for as long as I've been involved in politics of the polluter pays. We have that on toxic and hazardous waste, on contamination of land. And what the oil companies did, they knew what they were doing, they knew the harm they were going to cause, kept it quiet, and just kept on doing their thing. And as a result, you have a planet that's on the edge of a thermal overload. And that means lots of rain, lots of fires, and other terrible things that I can't even imagine. So, got to pass it. Now, John McKean, he's the prime sponsor. I'm the second prime sponsor. We have a strategy. Every time we see Nick Scutari, you know, Nick Scutari is a Union County senator. All right, not this, Plainfield's not in his district, but he has much of Union County. He is our Senate president. And the way it works in the legislature is the head of each house, Senate President in the Senate, Assembly Speaker in the Assembly, they decide what the agenda is, what bills are listed, all right? There will not be a legislative session in the House, the Assembly, or the Senate probably until after the election, with the exception, once we find out the implications of the big bad bill, or I'm sorry, the big ugly bill, whatever you want to call it, there may be a need to reconvene the legislative houses and deal with the damage to our most vulnerable citizens. So there may be another meeting in the summer, but generally that's not the case. So between now and the day after election, you can win this. You know, McKeon and Smith and Raj Mukherjee, we're committed, but that's 3. You need 41 assembly people, you need 21 senators, and you need the governor if you want to get any legislation passed. And we all, you know, you're not here because you think this is a casual moment in our history. You're here because you're committed. So let John and I and Raj give you the roadmap to success. The roadmap to success is, okay, we have 45 towns that have passed resolutions. We have 567 towns in the state of New Jersey. So even if it's not your town, go to somebody's council meeting and say, what are you guys and gals doing about the impact of climate change? You should be endorsing the following bill. All right? And many of you belong to organizations that are intramural. You're not just in one town, you're in a whole bunch of towns. You gotta get your friends and neighbors activated. So you go to the mayor and council sessions and say, this is crucial to the success of human beings as a species. I mean, let's lay it on the line. That's what it's all about. Whether your grandkids are actually going to have a place to take a swim in. All right, so get the mayors and councils, yourself, and your friends and family. Call the legislative offices of the assembly people and senators who are in your district. And why? Because a phone call from somebody who's in my district counts 10 points versus a single point from somebody's 100 miles away. Because you know what? You vote. Democracy actually can work. It has the potential to work. So you need to call your local 2 assembly people and your 1 senator and say, this is really important. I'd like you to indicate your support for the legislation and work to get it passed. And then it wouldn't hurt for you to send a letter to Senator Scutari or to Assemblyman Coughlin to say, this is really important to you. That's how legislation gets passed. You know, everybody's afraid to make change. They're not sure what will happen. This change is so needed because of the cost of these improvements. And then let me mention one other thing that's a little off topic, but you know, maybe you shouldn't believe in the federal government, especially for the next 3.5 years, but I worry too about the premise of this. You know, this case is going through the federal courts now. The case is, should the polluters, should the large oil be responsible for the damages that they've caused? At the end of the court change is the Supreme Court. I'm not real impressed with this Supreme Court. So don't put all your chickens in one basket. And what your local municipality has is a tool that was created 5 years ago to create what are called stormwater utilities. And what you do is you collect a little vigorish, that's money if you're from Atlantic City, you collect a little vigorish for stormwater improvements so you can keep flooding to an absolute minimum. And what you're doing in effect is self-help. You know, nobody has extra money, but if you're talking about a property that has a large asphalt impervious surface, they're part of the problem. They should be part of the solution. So think stormwater utilities. And other than that, I'm lighting a candle and saying a prayer. I have 5 grandchildren, love them all, but I'm worried about them. I mean, I'm an old dude anyway, all right? Had a great life, but they haven't. And I'm going to have great-grandchildren someday. And that's the way you need to look at it. This has to be personal to you. If you don't get engaged personally, you're letting down your family. You're letting down your future. So, we going to do it? Yeah! Are we going to do it? Yeah! All right, that was good.
Thank you, Senator Smith. Appreciate your leadership on this issue, and thank you for co-sponsoring. Next up, we are blessed to have with us the mayor of the city of Rahway. Please give a warm welcome to Mayor Raymond Giacobbe.
Good afternoon, everyone. I want to first off start by thanking Mayor Mapp and the City of Plainfield for hosting this very important press conference. Last week, the City of Rahway endured yet another extreme weather event. We saw high levels of flooding throughout our neighborhoods, streets underwater, property damaged, and several individuals in need of rescue. Thankfully, no lives were lost, and I would like to take this time to send out my condolences to the families and loved ones of the individuals who did lose their lives in this past storm. But the impact was clear of what happened with this storm and significant damage to homes, businesses, and infrastructure that we now have to repair and recover from. In my 8 years serving as mayor, I've watched these weather events pile up, and the toll on our homes and our infrastructure is clear. But Rahway has not stood still. We have taken action, upgrading our floodgates, lining our sewers under Main Street, removing loose debris in our river, and reinforcing critical roadways and infrastructure. We are proud in the city of Rahway to be a part of the Mayor Council for the Rahway River Watershed Flood Control. We've worked closely with the NJDEP and the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers to advance large-scale, long-term flood mitigation solutions. But as Mayor Mapp mentioned, that federal money is dried up and is no longer available. But we cannot and we should not carry the burden alone. I want to take this opportunity to thank Senate President Scutari, Assembly members Jim Kennedy and Linda Carter, my representatives, and all of the members of the Senate and Assembly who support this bill for their leadership and their support. That is why I support the NJ Climate Superfund Act. This legislation is about fairness. It's about requiring the fossil fuel companies who are most responsible for the greenhouse gas emissions to pay their fair share for the damages to communities like Rahway and others have experienced over the last decades, several decades. We can clap to that, absolutely. These funds will go directly to climate adaptation, flood protections, stronger infrastructure, and emergency response systems for overburdened towns like Rahway and others. But this is not just about Rahway. It's about every town along the Rahway River, about every town that experienced extreme flooding. It's about every individual who has to repair, rebuild, or rethink how they live because of rising waters and recurring storms. We've already invested in solutions. Now we need the backing to keep moving forward. Let's pass this legislation and secure the support that our communities so desperately need. I want to thank you for the opportunity of speaking today, and as the Senator just mentioned, we have to take this personal. This is not just about the moment. This is about our children and our grandchildren and what we are going to leave them. Flooding does not discriminate. It does not care if you're Republican or Democrat. It does not care what religious belief you have. Flooding is something that is life-threatening and damaging to our communities. And I am here speaking up on behalf of the city of Rahway, and I know that my city council supports it because we also passed the resolution mentioned before, and I want to continue to advocate for such an important issue. So thank you again for the opportunity. God bless everyone, and keep up the good fight.
Thank you, Mayor. Well said. Appreciate you. And thanks again for helping get that resolution passed. Next up, we're honored to have another member of the New Jersey Senate representing the 32nd District. Please give a warm welcome to Senator Raj Mukherjee.
Thank you so much. And to all of the organizers and advocates here with us. You know, the scientists warned us about the incredibly harmful consequences of not containing global climate rise to 1.5 degrees Celsius. We also know not containing global climate rise to 2 degrees Celsius, like most of the NDC goals in the Paris Agreement, would be catastrophic. But we're now at the point where it is not even realistic to aspire to 2 degrees. We're just way past that. And by the way, none of us up here today can do anything about that because the United States is only going to be 5% and we're just screwed on that front. Now, as it relates to alleviating the burden on taxpayers and ratepayers and insurance customers of preventing further harm, and as we shift as horrific as this is, and much as it pains me to say it, as we shift from mitigation to adaptation, the atmosphere gets warmer and contains most moisture, it's going to rain heavier and faster. We're going to see more flash floods like we saw. We're going to see more people die. Plainfield lost 2, right 2 weeks after they lost another 2. And our hearts go out to you, Mayor, and to their families and to this community. Hurts my Jersey City street cred. I grew up next door in Scotch Plains, Fanwood, and my home is flooded. And my wife, then girlfriend, was displaced from her home in Hoboken with a refrigerator was strewn out in the backyard with a bunch of other stuff after Hurricane Sandy. And we lost over 24 children in Texas. And if only we knew who was responsible, if only we knew that they knowingly, quite literally, fueled the severe weather events resulting in this death and destruction. Oh wait, we do. If only they had record profits that enabled them to pay for the havoc they've wreaked upon our communities. Oh wait, they're enjoying those record profits. If only a state that shared a border with us had already done this and modeled what we could replicate through the Climate Superfund Act. Oh wait, it did. So the cost of continued inaction, which means not passing the Climate Superfund Act into law, it's not just the cost to the taxpayers for the billions of dollars that they could be paying for, but when it comes to resiliency infrastructure, that could mitigate, that could stop future death, the cost could be the lives of children, like at the camp in Texas. The cost of the lives of our neighbors, like here in Plainfield. That is a cost, I suggest to all of you, we can no longer tolerate. Thank you all up here for your advocacy. I'm so delighted to see Senator Kim represented here by Sue Altman, but I will say that action at the federal level is not something in this administration, in this climate, no pun intended, I have a lot of faith in. But just like when President Trump took us out of the Paris Accord, state actors stepped up. And Chairman Smith, and I first primed it in the other house, passed the bill that Governor Murphy signed into law as his second bill, signed into law as governor, which required New Jersey to join the Climate Alliance. Because if enough states through the Climate Alliance hold up our end of the bargain in terms of the Paris Accord, who cares what they do in Washington? Who cares what the fascists want to do? States can act. States can act, and we can no longer tolerate the cost of inaction. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Appreciate those strong words. Next up, we have another champion for a Climate Superfund Act municipal resolution. Please welcome Springfield Committeeman Alex Kaiser.
Woo. Thank you. Thank you once again to Mayor Mapp for hosting us and all our Union County neighbors who know flooding too frequently and all too well. And while Springfield luckily didn't have the trouble that Plainfield did and Rahway did, we've had it during my entire time on for the last 7 years of catastrophic flooding events. And just to make it personal, Springfield in the last 2 years, thanks to the American Recovery Act, made an investment of $1.8 million in our pumping stations. Those pumping stations, we have 3 of, one of which we were able to rehab and refurbish to help alleviate the flooding when these severe weather events happen. 1.8 million, that was just for one of our flooding pump stations. We have 2 more that need to be rehabbed. And unfortunately, due to the dry up of federal funds, We can no longer rely on that. So we'll need a new avenue to help fund our infrastructure improvements, like those pump stations, like dredging our basin, like making the necessary improvements to our wastewater system. We can't do it alone. We need the help of somebody. We make hard decisions every single day. Well, this isn't a hard decision. It's either the taxpayers are going to fund it, or it's the companies that have record-breaking profits year after year that cause this climate catastrophe, this cataclysmic event to occur. Either they pay for it or our taxpayers. It's that simple to me, and I think everyone across our state would say that is a simple solution to have them pay. So thank you once again. Thank you to the leadership of Senator McKeon, Chairman Smith, and Senator McCurdy. We're going to have a solution here in New Jersey.
Thank you, Committeeman. Appreciate your leadership. And so Assemblywoman Linda Carter could not be here, but I understand Mr. Doug O'Malley has a statement to read.
Thank you so much, Charlie. My name is Doug O'Malley. I serve as the Director of Environment, New Jersey. Assemblywoman Linda Carter desperately wanted to be here today. She could not. I will read a brief statement on her behalf. I'll also just acknowledge the Assemblywoman serves as the Majority Conference Leader. She served previously in these chambers behind me as a member of City Council. And most importantly, she is a resident of Plainfield and sadly, like Reverend Gore, suffered damage along with hundreds of Plainfield residents. Her home was severely flooded, and obviously every resident in Plainfield was affected. Here is her statement. While I'm unable to be here with you in person, I stand with my neighbors and the elected officials as we recover from the recent storms and flooding. I am committed to securing the state resources that our communities need for these efforts, something that's particularly special right now for the city of Plainfield. Over the last 2 years, I've advocated and secured funding to help restore and maintain Milt Campbell's Field water retention basin. I also fully support the creation of a storm recovery reserve fund for all our communities to allow local partners and businesses to directly support recovery efforts. Thank you again.
Thank you so much, Doug. And next up, we are blessed to have a representative, the District Director for Representative Bonnie Watson Coleman, Mr. Jordan Lucas.
Thank you, Mayor Matt. Thank you, Food and Water Action. Thank you, everyone, for having me. My name is Jordan Lewis. I'm the District Director for Congresswoman Watson Coleman. The Congresswoman could not make it here today because she's in D.C. right now, working to prevent the cuts to public safety programs that are being proposed by President Trump and the Republican leadership in Congress. First, the Congresswoman's prayers goes out to those impacted recently from the storms, including families that lost lives. In addition, our office is open to anyone that's seeking federal assistance. Please give us a call at 609-883-0026. You can also go to disasterassistance.gov to see what you may qualify for, and the Congresswoman wanted me to just bring some remarks on your behalf. The impacts of climate change are here. The consequences of polluters releasing carbon dioxide into the atmosphere can be seen here in Plainfield and around the city, and also around the state of New Jersey. From flooding in North New Jersey, powerful thunderstorms in Central Jersey, and tornadoes in South Jersey, we are seeing what happens when we allow polluters to write our environmental policy. It is a disgrace that at this moment, the President and his lackeys in Congress are proposing massive cuts to NOAA, FEMA, and the National Weather Service as storms grow in strength and frequency. Right now, Republicans in D.C. are trying to cut NOAA, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, including the elimination of Princeton Geophysical Flood Dynamics Lab, which studies our climate in order to better predict extreme weather events. At FEMA, they're proposing to underfund local emergency management grants emergency food and shelter, and national flood mapping programs. All these cuts are being made so billionaires who almost never suffer the most worst disasters can have a tax cut. And also to feed their corporate partners, including increasing their stock prices. They're putting our families at risk. Their donors and CEOs can buy another vacation home. I can't emphasize enough, if you live in Tom Keene's district, Chris Smith's district, Jeff Van Drew's district, call them. Let them know that your neighbors, your homes, your families' safety must not be sacrificed at the altar for a big tax cut for the rich. In New Jersey, we look out for our neighbors, and it's time for our elected representatives to act as such. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, and we are also really lucky and honored to have with us a representative from Senator Andy Kim's office. Please welcome Sue Aldman, everybody.
Hey, everybody. Hello, Plainfield. Mayor Mapp, I'm here on behalf of Senator Andy Kim. I'm his state director. It's an honor to be here. Mayor Mapp, I am so deeply sorry for what your city experienced this past week. I cannot imagine the heart-wrenching loss. And I'm grateful to be here today and to fight on behalf of Senator Kim, with Senator Kim, to fight for resilience in New Jersey. Being a mayor, being a state senator, being a local elected official, these are the jobs on the front lines in today's political environment. And on behalf of the senator, I just want to say thank you to all the mayors and the council people and the first responders, and I see the state senators here as well, the advocate groups like Food and Water Watch, for doing the work that needs to happen right now in New Jersey and across the entire country. These are difficult times. These are trying times. These are times full of tragedy and difficulty. But I'm proud to work for a senator who I know is fighting every day in Washington to make sure New Jersey has what it needs to be strong and resilient. But the strength and resilience is already here in all of you. And I truly thank you so much for all that you do, and know that the senator has your back, and I do too, and thank you so much.
Thanks, Sue. All right, so we are approaching the end of our program. I did want to just take a moment to speak a little bit on behalf of our organization. I'm our Central Jersey organizer with Food and Water Watch. And before we take questions and have our final speaker, I just wanted to say a few words. We're proud to be part of the Empower New Jersey Coalition with over 130 groups fighting for a better future. That's labor, faith, social justice, environmental, you name it, we're all uniting to pass the Climate Superfund Act. The Climate Superfund Act sadly will not undo the losses of life from these terrible storms. But when we pass it into law, it will help our communities be safer, more prepared, and more resilient for the next storm, the next unnatural disaster. And we know it's coming, and we need our leaders to protect us, and that's why we're all gathered here today. With the federal government facing death by 1,000 cuts, it's more important than ever that New Jersey step up. As has been mentioned, Plainfield lost millions of dollars that was meant to address flooding and reduce it. And we need to step up here in New Jersey to protect Plainfield and every community. And so that's why we're working harder than ever to get this bill across the finish line. Rallies, press conferences, petitions, potlucks, town halls, trainings, advocacy meetings. And you too can be a part of this movement. Just talk to us after the event. And I wanted to give a special thanks to all the young people. There's a great organization, the Climate Revolution Action Network, and you're about to hear from one of their leaders. Please give a very warm welcome to Ben Jovic.
Thank you. Thank you all for being here. We shouldn't have to be here like this. Not after the aftermath of destruction and so many lives lost. But here we are in Plainfield, absolutely devastated, surrounded by our peers. A beautiful community gutted by floodwaters and mud, homes ruined, lives upended, families mourning, and the response, a fantastic mutual aid concert to raise money. That's where we're at in New Jersey, a concert, because the state legislature and federal government aren't stepping up fast enough. Because the people who caused this crisis, the fossil fuel corporations, who have spent decades profiting off our suffering, haven't paid a dime. So I have to ask, when will the deaths be enough? How many more lives need to be lost? How many more towns need to be swallowed by storms before the Speaker and Senate President, whose own district was underwater, finally moves the Climate Superfund Act forward? We're not asking for miracles, we're asking for justice. We're asking for accountability. We are asking for the bare minimum. New Jersey is in a deficit, and taxpayers are paying to clean up storms, for infrastructure failures, for emergency response. And let me be clear, this bill is under attack by Donald Trump. He is specifically signing executive orders because this bill is effective, because it works, because it returns money to taxpayers to rebuild their homes, to pump out their basement, to rebuild businesses, to rebuild roads and bridges, all from big oil's deep pockets. And if your genuine concern is the financial burden of the community, then I invite you to look around. Look around and tell me a town drowning underwater doesn't have an economic cost. Tell me the grief and destruction does not have a price. If you care so much about money, what is the price of a human life in your ledger? Let's stop pretending that we don't know the truth. This bill would charge just a handful of companies who've emitted more than 1 billion metric tons of greenhouse gases since 1995 forward. And none of us here, no working class family, no teacher, no nurse, no student, no grandmother going to bingo with her friend, will ever come close to that kind of pollution. And yet we are the ones paying for it with our wallets and with our lives. So yes, I offer my deepest condolences to the families grieving in Plainfield. I offer my prayers and my love to the community trying to pick up the pieces. May the memory of those we lost be a blessing. But I promise you this, our fight will not end here. We will not let the deaths be ignored. We will not let corporate polluters walk away unscathed. We will not let this bill die in the shadows of backroom politics. Plainfield deserves better, and we're not going anywhere until this bill becomes law. We're gonna make polluters pay, all right? Polluters pay. Make polluters pay. Make polluters pay. Make polluters pay. Make polluters pay. Thank you. I do want to say, I did hear that Senate President Nick Scutari is now in support of this bill. That's what I heard during this press conference. So maybe we'll hold him to that, right? And he'll move this bill forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. Thank you, everybody at CRAN. Thank you all for coming. Thanks to all the speakers, all the elected officials. We're happy to take questions from the press. I think also anybody who did speak would be happy to do an interview on camera. Yes?
Do you know if Senator Smith is still around?
I don't believe Senator Smith is still here.
Okay, thank you.
Any other press questions?
The key is back there.
Yes, there is a couple senators here if you want to speak to them, and I'm sure everybody who spoke would be happy to talk with all the press. Thank you again, everybody, for coming. This was really nice.
Charlie, can we get a group shot?
Sure.
Does everyone want to come up for the group shot?
Yeah, let's get a good
We have more signs. Come on, we can fill the stairs, show power in numbers.
Who needs a sign?
I'll take a trans sign.
Yeah.
I do need distribution.
I know, kid.
so much. Appreciate it. Great staff. Thank you. Your sign, John.
You guys want to sign? Make polluters pay? Make polluters pay. Pass the plan.
Take a turn. I know.
You said you liked the short, and I can tell. All right, right here, everybody. All right, here we go. 3, 2, 1. Aaron, I'm good. Everybody good? Everybody good? All right.
We good? Thanks, everyone.
All right. Thanks so much.
That was super fun.
Oh, well.
Great job.
Thank you.